Let's talk about how to change your diet to reduce fatigue felt during menstruation or the period. I've rambled enough about what's going on. Let's give you some actionables. So, firstly, we need to understand what's going on to affect the fatigue during that phase. Firstly, we have very low levels of estrogen, which reduces insulin sensitivity, leading to an increase in blood glucose levels and therefore reactive oxygen species, brain fog, etc. Secondarily, we also have the bleeding, so the loss of blood is going to reduce ferritin, iron, and hemoglobin directly, both of which impair oxygen carrying capacity, meaning you can't get oxygen into tissues, you feel tired, and secondarily, you can't efficiently get glucose into cells in order to have effects. Again, feeling tired. Let's talk about how we can fix this. So the first thing we want to be looking at is dietary strategies to change. And as we said, that impaired insulin sensitivity, it's going to make sense to do one of a couple of things. Firstly, you could lower carbohydrate intake and raise fat intake, reducing the glucose burden, but keeping caloric intake the same. Another thing you could do to lower that glucose burden is to reduce the glycemic index of your carbs. If you're normally having things like white rice and fruit, etc., you could opt for starchier, more fibrous things that are slower to break down and therefore reduce that glucose burden. If you wanted to go down a supplemental route, you could look at using something like chromium. Chromium increases the effectiveness of that insulin receptor, and going with about 1 microgram per gram of carbs will improve the effectiveness of that insulin, potentially offsetting some of the side effects. To offset the ferritin and hemoglobin loss, we'd be looking at iron supplementation. However, there's a couple of really important things here. Firstly, you do not want to be supplementing every day. When you take it every day, it upregulates an enzyme in the gut that actually blocks absorption, so taking it every other day is 100% the way to go. If you want to further enhance absorption, you could look into vitamin C supplementation and potentially even lactoferrin. Again, we could go dietary for this, so looking at things like heme iron sources, red meat, etc. There's too much here.